Dark Elves, the most hateful of all the races within the Warhammer Fantasy world. Basically, they can be summed up with the phrase, "Oh, I'm so evil, mummy, look at how evil I am." All puns aside though, these guys have some pretty cool fluff and these guys are pretty evil to say the least, hence Dark Elves. So let's have a look at some of their playstyles, some of their advantages, and what they're aesthetically like, and just a little bit about the Dark Elf army within Warhammer Fantasy. Firstly, it should be noted that the Dark Elf rulebook or army book can be pretty face roll thanks to the cheese available within the book. However, in my opinion, I think it is very difficult to master, but when it is played right, is all but unstoppable. There's been a fair few amount of changes thanks to the new 8th edition rules, and there are a few things that the Dark Elves are limited in, but when played right, they can be absolutely amazing and triumph over just about everybody with some really cunning trickses. Some of the advantages within the Dark Elves Warhammer Fantasy Army book include amazing magical capabilities, particularly when taking into consideration the winds of magic and all that sort of thing. There's a spell called the Power of Darkness, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, which allows you to generate extra power dice, which could be absolutely invaluable and simply game-breaking if pulled off at the right moment. Eternal Hatred is going to be simply fantastic, to absolutely say the least, and really, Dark Elves are capable of competing in every single phase of the game. Great movement capabilities, very mobile army, very good ability in the shooting phase, very good ability in the magic phase, very good options in the combat phase. In the close combat phase. Dark Elves really have got it all. They've got just about a trick for just about every single thing. Some of the other advantages within the Dark Elf army book include assassins, which are, I don't know what you guys think, but I think they're really super cool, and they do just that, kill your opponent's characters, and just really can be absolutely game breaking. They have some really uber cheese possibilities like double hydras, which are really super cheesy now with the new breath weapon rules. Other things around the place, which I'm sure many of you have seen and will continue to see. Really cool units, Blackguard, Executioners, Witch Elves, the Cauldron of Blood, all that stuff. It's just not only cool to look at, but it's pretty fun to play with and even play against. And of course, who couldn't forget the naturally truly terrifying monsters available to the Dark Elf army, including Hydras, Manticores, Dark Pegasus, Dragons. It's cold ones, they've got it all, man. That stuff is really, really cool. And if you're into all that kind of thing, terror bombing is certainly something that the Dark Elves can pull off very, very well. Eternal Hatred I'm going to put in between advantages and disadvantages, because apart from being pretty cool, like everybody in your entire army is going to re-roll hits in your first round of combat, it's also going to be a bit of a bitch because you always have to pursue, which in this game now, I think now in 8th Ed is going to be a lot more of an issue. See how it goes as we go along. Some of the other disadvantages, however, within the Dark Elves book is generally, apart from, really solid things like, Manticores and Dragons and Hydras, you're going to have a low toughness. You're probably not going to see anything higher than toughness 3, which is not that great. You're also generally not getting a huge armor save. Obviously, there are some, pretty cool things like the Pendant of Caleth and Armor of Darkness and all of that really good stuff, but in terms of army-wide stuff, probably there's not really a whole lot of protection. High points cost is also pretty difficult to deal with, so I mean that can also be an advantage when it comes down to being aesthetics, because you're not going to have to collect as many models. I guess it really all comes down to taste. So really, in terms of playstyle, I think it should be summed up that thanks to things dying a lot more now in 8th edition and a lack of protection, the Dark Elves really have to be coordinated in such a way that allows smaller units to very much get into position to combo charge, and very much when you get in there, hit with the striking killing blow and then getting the hell out of there so that you're not dying, obviously. So I think it's going to be very much more of a finesse army than it was before, and not entirely forgiving. So now I guess it really comes down to talking about aesthetics. The Dark Elves have some really, really cool miniatures, and in my opinion have some of the really absolutely coolest things available in the game. Corsairs look awesome, Blackguard, Witch Elves, Executioners, Cauldron of Blood, Dragons, man, they've got it all. It's really, really cool looking stuff. I think it should also be worth noting that some of the stuff could definitely use some replacing, like Dark Riders, which I think are like back from 4th Ed. and they're pretty old, but you know, you can definitely put up some. I think it provides an opportunity to do a fair bit of converting. There's also a lot of metal stuff in a Dark Elf army, so in terms of actual price cost, there is, I think the Dark Elves can quite often get quite up there in terms of price. Sometimes you're going to require conversions, sometimes you're not. I think in terms of converting freedom, there's a pretty... it's an okay amount within the Dark Elves, but I generally find there's not a whole lot of converting that does get done, apart from said Dark Riders or Harpies, so I guess it all comes down to that. In terms of colour schemes, these guys are very dark, but very brooding and very awesome looking in my opinion. They're unlike anything else. Well, they're pretty much unlike anything else, so if you're into all that kind of thing, check out the Dark Elves. They're very cool, very much a finesse army, and all about hating stuff and killing stuff, and hey, isn't that why you're here into this hobby? So guys, hopefully that will assist you in having a look at the Dark Elves as just a quick little overview of the badass Druchii of the old world.